Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 29th of October. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. Just to announce, I'm raising the paywall on my other two Substacks at the start of November. So this will be the last of the free webinars. After that, I'll be still doing some free webinars, and obviously the posts will all be free, but these are going behind a paywall from the 1st of November, which is Saturday. All right, I've got another thing. This is the chart of the day that I'm posting today, and I just wanted to walk through it. Hang on, wait a second. Alrighty, hang on. I'm going to be doing a post on this with the longer term patterns on the indices, but this is a chart of the big highs. For some reason, they haven't actually marked this one here, which is at 1906. But we've got 1906, 1929, 1965, 1999. These are basically secular bull market highs. And this is where we are currently in terms of the valuation of stocks, in terms of earnings and so on. And this is pretty damn high. This is the highest in since 1900. And obviously, when we've reached this kind of area in 1906, 1929, 1965, 1999, when we've reached this kind of area, we've usually made a big top and then gone into a consolidation for, consolidation. We've often lost 50 or percent or more of the value of the market, but you've gone into a consolidation which has basically lasted 5 to 15 years, and then started on the way up again. And you can see, obviously, in terms of earnings, which have generally fallen during these periods as well, we go down to relatively low levels, less low last time, but of course there was a large amount of QE. And then we start on the track back up again in a new secular bull market. Historically, of course, this is 1906 here, and then 23 years later, we get another huge high, and then 36 years later, we get another huge high, and then 34 years later, we get another huge high, and now we are 25 years later. Now, it could be that this is going to be different this time, and we're going to head off into uncharted territory, but, well, it's a warning. Okay, looking at the futures charts. This is what I was talking about in the pre-market video yesterday morning. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed on ES. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed on NQ. We had one early, and it had already made target on RTY. And we've got a 60-minute sell signal which had already fixed and survived yesterday on Dow. The bearish leaning day this week is today. So there's every reason to think that we're going to see some kind of a pullback. I was pouring some cold water on the idea we could see a larger high here because of this chart, which is, which I posted yesterday on my post. And this is the average daily performance of the S&P from 1928 to 2024. And you can see this is what it will do on an average day and an average month, etc. But the average tracking of, and obviously we tend to get a retracement starting on September the 2nd, which didn't really happen to this same degree on the other ones, but actually definitely did happen on QQQ. We saw this flag form. So, we see. This is normally when the center rally would start, but normally that would be at the end of a retracement. Obviously, we got a government shutdown this time, etc. But obviously, November tends to be a pretty bullish year on average, and December tends to be a pretty bullish year on average as well. So we've kind of gone out of the natural window to deliver a larger retracement. Now we've got possible interest rate cut today. And Chinese negotiations are ongoing, and we'll probably see the result within a few days. And the other thing that we might be seeing in a few days is the Supreme Court ruling on whether the tariffs are legal, which I think they're pretty obviously not. But the Supreme Court has been ruling pretty much everything in Trump's favor, and I'm thinking they're probably going to do the same here too. All right, looking at DAX. DAX still broken up from here. If we're going to see a general move up, then I'd be leaning towards seeing a retest of the high. But I'm not really leaning towards seeing that retest of the high. I think at the very least for the next few days, we're likely to be consolidating. Looking at ESTX, we've seen a little higher here. Still got a nice looking double top setup here. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Okay, SPX. Now, looking at the daily charts first, we are running. Went up again yesterday, pretty close under the 3SD upper band, and I didn't quite hit it, but again, running pretty close. In terms of the main trend line here, we've reached it, so I've redrawn this rising support trend line here to show the wedge as unbroken, and we are potentially overthrowing it a bit here. Do I have an alternative wedge resistance here? Not one of this quality, but yes, I do. But it would be significantly higher, and maybe that we'll go off and hit that. Looking at the Qs, we've actually hit the 3SD upper band 2 days running. No divergence on the daily chart, but on Dia again, these are basically all of the indices which are strongly affected by tech stocks, and again we went significantly higher. We will see. But could we set up some very nice daily sell signals from here? Yes, but we would require a pullback, a retest, and then a larger pullback. We do have daily RSI 14 sell signals fixed across the board, and I'd be more confident about making those making target. Generally speaking, they would make target, but my hesitation is that we're going into one of the most bullish periods of the year. But of course, we are going into that bullish period at pretty much at major highs. So we'll have to see how that goes. All right, looking at the hourly charts, no divergence on the on SPX here, but you can see we've reached the resistance trend line and we are slightly over it. In terms of the short term, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the 15-minute chart. Looking at Qs, we've got a tiny bit of negative divergence here, but it's really not much. We went through the first resistance trend line I was showing and have gone and hit the second one that I was showing. This is a very, very slight overthrow. Once I've tweaked the trend lines, it's possible that might disappear. On the 15-minute chart, we've again got 15-minute RSI 14 sell signal fixed, which is supporting the idea that we have some kind of pullback today. On Dia, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the hourly chart. Sorry, I haven't put in the arrow on that. On the 15-minute chart, we've got another RSI 14 sell signal fixed. All right, let's have a look at the IWM chart. Okay, IWM. On the daily chart, we've still got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. I was leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here. I wasn't leaning towards seeing any higher than that, but we haven't actually quite had the retest of the high. That might still need to be done. On the hourly chart, nowhere near an hourly sell signal. 15-minute chart, we're on an old 15-minute sell signal, which has more than reached the possible near miss target and may well have played out. Looking at DAX. We are still kicking around the daily middle band. Yesterday, that closed at 24,290, and we closed 12 handles below it. What this is, given what happened before, this is so far failing to get back over the daily middle band, which is suggesting the next move will probably be down. Nikkei, we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing. We have gone and hit a channel resistance trend line here, and at the moment, that is holding. Again, I'm wondering about a reversal here, but I'm not wild about the timing. All right, let's have a look at the DX chart. Now, DX, we saw a decent move up yesterday. I am wondering about this overall being a bull flag. Not a particularly well-formed bull flag or triangle, but nonetheless. And at the moment, we're heading back up to there, and once we see a break over this flag resistance, I'd be looking for a retest of this high in the 99.25 area, and then potentially quite a bit higher. What are the other ones telling us? Euro isn't telling us a lot. GBP USD is breaking lower, which is obviously bullish for the dollar. USD JPY is still kicking around near the highs. We've got a potential level top set up here, but I'm thinking we may well break up through this and go higher. On USD, we've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed, which is suggesting more upside for the dollar. We've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed on USD CAD, which is suggesting more upside for the dollar, though we do have a larger head and shoulders that's broken down. Australian dollar, we had an inverted head and shoulders which broke up, and that's now made target. No current divergence on NZ. Still looks like a bear flag forming. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but weakly supportive of dollar going further up. All right, let's have a look at US dollar. Okay. Bigger picture, we've got this bigger picture, we've got this flag, which is setting up a potential retest of this high here at 114.78. And I think that's in play here, although I'm a bit doubtful. What I am thinking we are likely to see, and I'm watching, by the way, this possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing here. I want to see where that closes at the end of the month, because that may fix into a full signal, which would be bullish. On the weekly charts, we've already got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed, and the RSI 5 buy signal has already made target. But the main thing I'm looking at is this double bottom here. If we see a sustained breakup over 100.26, we would have a target in the 104.05 to 15 area. And that's what I'm thinking we may well be doing. Actually, no, that's wrong. That would be in the 104.10 to 30 area. So, hang on a second. Sorry, I've still got a bit of a cold. I don't want to subject you to my sneezing. Right, so I'm watching for that to go, and we've been holding the daily middle band here, and I'm leaning towards it finding support here and going up. So when we reach this 104, I'm pretty happy about the setup to 104 to 104.5, and we could well reach that. I'm skeptical about it getting higher than that. We've got a number of levels there which would suggest that there will be some significant resistance there, and I think there might be. But I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to get there. Obviously, in terms of that big bear flag on the, bull flag on the US dollar, we've got a matching bear flag on EURUSD, we've got a matching bear flag on GBP USD. Not as clear in terms of what's happening on here, but we've got on EURUSD, we've got a nice looking on the daily chart, a double top. Hasn't broken down yet, but looks pretty interesting. GBP USD, much less clear. Possible very, very ugly head and shoulders, but to be honest, that shoulder is more of a hunch and doesn't, maybe. It could make target, but I'm a little skeptical. USD JPY, this is, if the dollar's going to go up to that level, then to the 104 level, then I would expect USD JPY to head back up at least to these highs here at 153.27, but obviously there's a decent chance that it goes back up to a retest of this high here at 162. That would be a very nice move, but obviously, looking at the overall pattern setup here with the rising megaphone, that would be a pretty good contender for a place to reverse back down again. Looking at USD CAD, again, I'm wondering about, we've got this ceiling at the moment in the 101.47 area, and I'm thinking we may well go up and retest that. After that, well, we would have to see. There's no divergence on any of these really. RSI 5 sell signal on USD CAD's already made target. I'm looking at the Australian dollar. I'm wondering about a retest this low here at 55. Looking at NZ, I'm wondering about a move down to just triangle support in the 50.55 area. So we will see. All right, let's have a look at bonds. Okay, bonds, I'm thinking we might be making a significant high here. And one thing I want to mention, I've got a double top breaking down here. There is a possible alternative where we're making a not awesome, but potentially perfectly valid head and shoulders here, which would be a larger pattern. If we get down to here, I'll call that as breaking down. We've got a weak 60-minute sell signal fix. That's getting pretty close to the possible near miss target. We'll see. But I'm thinking also we've got a nice looking double top here on ZN, and that's got a decent chance of playing out. I'm thinking there's a pretty good chance we are reversing back down again on bonds, having managed the high retest, which I was talking about for quite a while. All right, let's have a look at that on the bigger picture charts. On TNX, on the, on TYX on the daily chart, if we retest this low here at 45.28, then we would set up a nice looking RSI 5 buy signal. We've got a nice daily RSI 5 buy signal already fixed on TNX and a double bottom because that low has already been retested. And on TLT, if we retest that double top, we get a nice little double top here, and we would also get a possible daily RSI 5 and daily RSI 14 sell signal brewing. In terms of the hourly charts, we've got RSI 14 buy signal here has made the possible near miss target. Obviously, we've got a decent looking double bottom setup here, and we're pretty close to a decent double top, small double top setup, but nonetheless on here on TLT as well. We will see how that goes. We've got an RSI 14 sell signal here. This one has not reached the possible near miss target yet. All right, let's have a look at oil. Right, oil. Now, oil, we have a little head and shoulders breakdown here with the target of the week pivot. It made that target, and we've now got a week 60-minute buy signal that's fixed. And we may be heading back up to retest this high. Now, obviously, as I've mentioned, this is a potential inverted head and shoulders forming, so I'm watching this with considerable interest. I'm not certain the bottom's in here, but but we're now at a stage where I'm thinking it could be. But we haven't got the trigger, which I'm thinking. I'm writing a post about this, but what I'm thinking the trigger might be for a big rally in oil is the collapse of the Russian economy and Russia effectively coming off the oil producers list. They produce 9 million barrels a day, or at least they used to, for the Ukrainians. Wrecked a lot of their refining capacity. I think a lot of that might be coming off the market over sometime in the next year or so. I think we're bottoming out till then, or at least that's the most likely reason I can think of why we might see a big rise in oil back to the 100 level. We'll see. HO, this looks like a possible head and shoulders forming. 60-minute sell signals reached possible near miss target. RBOB, possible 60-minute sell signals reached possible near miss target. This looks like pretty obviously a bull flag forming. I'm leaning towards the upside. We shall see how that goes. Do we have any other inverted head and shoulders forming on the oils? No, it's just the CL chart. We'll see how that goes. All right, and G. This was looking like a bull flag, but is continuing to head lower at the moment. We do have a possible weak 60-minute buy signal brewing. This might just be a retracement, but we will see. In terms of this head and shoulders, the problem is this head and shoulders, it fixed and then immediately failed. It would have made target, which is unusual. So do we have a possible alternate head and shoulders here? Yes. It's not great, but hang on, wait a second. I'll draw it. It's not as nice as the one that already fixed and failed, but there is another one possibly here. And that is here. You can see the left and right shoulders are pretty balanced with a high up here and then a high up here. It's not awful, and I'm thinking we might be playing this out. So I'm going to draw it in and I'm going to do the target on it. All right, so this would give us pretty similar distance, but obviously it breaks down from a very different place. All right, that would be, so because it comes down from the high to the neckline. If this one is valid, and I think it might be, then we've got a target in about the 3.69 area. And looking at it, we may well get there. We will see. All right, let's have a look at the energies then on the big picture charts. Looking at oil. Now, one thing I've been mentioning a lot in these webinars is that on the bigger picture, we've got a falling wedge, it's broken up. We're looking for a reversal pattern here. We've almost seen a retest of the low, not quite, but almost. And that may be a double bottom. In terms of the patterns here, therefore, we may have a double bottom here on the daily chart. No current daily signals. I was reading this as a potential, though not particularly great. Inverted head and shoulders. Now it's a potential, but not. Well, ideally, I always like the second low to be lower than the first one. That's mainly to preclude the possibility that this is a bear flag for me. But we've got a pretty decent looking double bottom here. We will see. On a sustained break up over 58, that would have a target in the 100 area. In terms of heating oil, all of heating oil, WTIC, and gas oil all have this initial wedge, which is broken up and is forming a reversal pattern. In all probability, or at least that would be the natural sequence. What have we got on heating oil? We've got a nice looking inverted head and shoulders. Hasn't broken up yet, but it's thinking about it. On gas oil, we've got a nice looking double bottom. This was reading as a likely bear flag. The bear flag broke down. We retested the low, and this is a potential double bottom now. We're not close to breaking up from that yet, but as I said, I think if the trigger is the collapse of Russia, then I'm thinking that's probably going to be sometime in the next year, because basically they did quite a lot of preparation for this war, but the preparation was mainly against sanctions. What they hadn't expected was this war would turn into a long war of attrition, which they would not be doing terribly well in. And their economy is in the toilet. They're out of money. And Ukraine is steadily shutting down most of their refinery capacity. It's up to about 40% of it at the moment. I think the Russians are in big trouble. And if their regime collapses, because, well, that's the problem with being president for life. Sometimes if you lose the presidency, then you lose your life as well. So I think Putin might be in big trouble as the economy turns down, and this is how the Soviet Union collapsed. Basically, expensive wars, reversal, oil going down to low prices. Basically, they ran out of money. And the Russians are in the process of doing something similar. Okay, so nice looking double bottom here on gas oil as well. These all have shot, and these are all consistent with the bigger picture patterns. But we don't have any positive divergence on the daily chart at the moment. Looking at natural gas, we're in a period where we have some bullish leaning tape, but we're coming to the end of that period, and we'll finish in about a month or so. This isn't making as much headway to the upside as I was expecting, but after that, I think the obvious lean here with the weak RSI 5 sell signal fix on the monthly chart, and with this double bottom really having not gone nowhere at all, I'm leaning towards a break below the monthly middle band and a very possible retest of this low here at 1.54. We will see how that goes. In the short term, we've got a decent looking falling wedge here, too big to be a flag, and it's broken up, and I'm leaning towards it going at least a little bit higher. We've got an IHS target up here in the 3.7 area, and I'd be expecting it to at least reach that. But at the moment, it's struggling, and there's no particular reason on the bigger picture why I'd expect natural gas really to be going up hard. Not quite sure what the effect of a major problem in Russia would be on that. They're not really selling a lot of natural gas to other people at the moment anyway. All right, let's have a look at the gold chart. And on GC, we've got a head and shoulders, which has broken down with a target in the 36.50 area. Now, we've got a weak 60-minute buy signal had fixed, and that's now reached the possible near miss target. It's backtesting the head and shoulder neckline at the moment. I'm thinking this may well continue down, or it could reject back up. And if it gets back over the 41.85 area, then 41.80, I think, then this head and shoulders fails, and we're rejecting back up to the high. We do have a candidate low area here. SI has broken down from a head and shoulders, and again, we've got the question of, is the head and shoulders going to actually survive, or is it going to fail back up into a retest of the highs? On palladium, we've got a head and shoulders broken down. Same question. Platinum, no obvious reversal pattern here. HG is different to the others. But I've been leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here, which we didn't quite make on this move. I'm leaning towards seeing that. And then I'm leaning towards this being a double top, which breaks down. More to say about these on the bigger picture charts, so let's have a look at those. Okay, looking at the gold chart, gold is well out of... we've gone through these two trend lines that I drew in a few weeks ago as possible resistance on the monthly log chart, which is really the only one to find them on at the moment. I've got another contender which is a lot further up. We've got looking very stretched on RSI, but no current negative divergence. On the weekly chart, no current negative divergence. On the daily chart, no divergence, but if we sort of retest the high, we could set up some interesting looking daily sell signals. Short term, we have come below the daily middle band, so we'll need to recover back over that, and I've got that at 4070 if we are going back to retest the high. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, which has now made target. Didn't have anything on the RSI 14. All right, looking at silver, as soon as we got over this resistance here in the 38 to 40 area, I was calling for a retest the all-time high, and we got it. We've been pulling back a bit from that. No negative divergence on the monthly chart. We could fix a lot of these no negative divergences just by retesting highs, and we could be doing that. Same no divergence on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, we had a weak RSI 14 sell signal fix, which hasn't made target yet, and an RSI 5 sell signal, which has now made target. We will see. All right, looking at palladium, we've seen a significant pullback here. Not really anything in the great scheme of things, but nonetheless, I am wondering whether we're breaking up here, and we do have an IHS, which is, hang on, oh, is that on? No, we don't. Oh, do we have an IHS on palladium? For some reason, I haven't drawn it in. But yeah. Oh, we've got a possible IHS forming on palladium. In which case, we'd be forming the right shoulder now, and we'd be seeing if it would break up. We'll see. But I've got the neckline here in about the 1650 area, and we would be potentially forming the right shoulder for that now. So on platinum, we've obviously seen what looks an awful lot like a big breakup here. We're waiting to see if we're going to see more from here, but more from this retracement. But on the bigger picture, we've got an IHS which is broken up here with a target in the 2290 area. On the weekly chart, we've actually got some possible RSI 14 and RSI 5 sell signals brewing. And on the daily chart, we had a RSI 5 sell signal, which has made target. We've also got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed. That hasn't made target yet. This is, at the moment, we're in an inflection point. We could head back up and retest the highs, or we could head down some more. And we're waiting to see which of those will deliver. In terms of copper, I'm leaning towards the downside, and you'll notice on the copper, this is the spot price, so it's not really closely linked to the futures chart, but it's significantly linked. But we've got a nice-looking double top here, which would set up a move down to pretty close to a retest this low here at 4.31. I'd like to see that happen, and I think there's a pretty decent chance it will happen. Looking at GDX, we've got significant pullback here, nothing really to hang your hat on here. We've got a weekly sell signal here on GDXJ and GDX, daily sell signal on the RSI 14, which hasn't made target yet. The RSI 5 sell signals have made target. Not a lot to see on the hourly charts either. Not much in the way of positive divergence, or nothing. We will see. I've got a possible arguable one on GDXJ here, but we're not seeing any real signs of a reversal here. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities. KC. KC, I was looking for a test higher. I think that test may be complete. In which case, I'm looking at this as a double top, and we've got a rising megaphone here, and we've broken slightly below that. The obvious target to get to would be double top support, which is down here in about the 349 area. So I'm thinking this might be a start of a double top breaking down and a significant move down in copper prices. Looking at SB, we've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed, but I'm concerned we might be breaking down on the bigger picture. On CC, this looks like a bear flag within a megaphone. This megaphone was a mess on the December chart, but as soon as I switched into March, it sprang into focus. So I'm leaning towards seeing a retest the low and wondering whether we will go down into a retest of this trend line here. We will see. Looking at CT, leaning towards making this target here in the 65-70 area, ideally go higher, but we're in kind of a big inflection point here, and I'm waiting to see which way that's going to go. In terms of lumber, we have broken down from what looks like an awful lot like a bear flag, and we're pretty close to a retest of the low. The 60-minute buy signal we had failed. On ZW, we have broken higher. I've got much more to say about this on the daily chart. Corn the same. and because we've made some decent progress to the upside, because I'm thinking that corn and wheat may be two of the big winners next year. On soy, we have seen a decent break up here, more so about that on the daily chart. ZL, we've got a likely bear flag which has been forming for a while and has now broken down. Live cattle, I think this is all about Argentine beef, actually, and the importing thereof. I don't think they're going to actually go ahead and import that because there's so much resistance from Republicans. But we will see how that goes. But we may find that this is reversed. In the meantime, though, we've got a double top which is broken down with a target quite a lot lower. On HE, we've got a possible double bottom here, but this may just be this falling wedge expanding. If that is the case, hang on, I'll be watching for another test of this support trend line. And I would have that significantly lower in about the 79 area or very slightly below. This was looking like it might be a double bottom. It's no longer looking like that, but I think this might just be this wedge expanding. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And coffee. Coffee, I think we may well have a large double top here, 4.1, 4.31, 4.38. Retest and fell slightly below this major high here at 4.41. If we see a sustained break below 3.49, this would have a target in about the 2.6 area, which would be much more in line with where this has traded historically. So I'm quite keen on that making target. How seriously am I taking the possible larger double target? Not that seriously. It would involve getting down to 1, maybe. But the smaller one I'm taking very seriously. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence. Looking at sugar, I'm concerned that we're breaking down towards this head and shoulder target, which is in the 6.5 to 9 area. We will see how that goes. That would be a big move down, but obviously we've been pretty elevated over the last few years there too, and it could be that we're coming back towards this trend line here, which would actually be in about the 8.5 area. I'm wondering if we're doing that. I'm wondering whether this wedge is expanding, and that's what this is telling us. We've had quite a lot of pretty nice looking reversal setups for this to go up, but it's not so far not doing it. We're going through the latest support trend line here. It's not gone. This could be a bullish underthrow, but obviously I'm concerned. On the daily chart, we did have a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing, and we've gone down. We've lost that. I do have another support trend line down here in about the 13 area. No, about 13.5 area, I think, which I'll be watching. But at the moment, the bullish setups are going to sugar to die. All right, cocoa. We've got RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the monthly. These generally would eventually make target, but it can often take a while. But really here, we've broken below a big support level here at 427, and I think we may well just be continuing down. On the bigger picture, again, we are obviously well above normal trading ranges. In terms of the daily chart, no current divergence. On wheat, I've been watching this double bottom here, and because I was talking, when we made this low here, I was talking about this potentially being a large nested double bottom, and we've reached the first double bottom resistance. This is the second up here. If we see a sustained break up over 4.35, then that would have a target in about the 575 to 580 area. And that would get us a lot closer to the potential second double bottom resistance. I'm really liking this. We will see. No divergence on the daily though. On corn, I was looking for a breakup over this declining resistance, and we've done it. We've now got a potential double bottom here, sustained break over 504.5. Would have a minimum target in about the 625 area, so that would be all the way up here. That would be a nice looking pattern. Potentially could take us higher as well. We will see. In the short term, we've got a little IHS which has broken up, and if that makes target, then that will get us basically up to this double bottom resistance. So I'm watching that with great interest. Looking at soybeans, I've been talking about this all year as a likely flag, and here we are back at flag resistance. Now we could continue up from here. It may be that there is no retest of the lows to be made. We will see how that goes. I think a lot of this week's optimism is about a deal with China, which could help, certainly. Bigger picture, though, I'm just not sure how interested the Chinese are in American soy. I don't think they view the Americans as a reliable trading partner. And honestly, they can blame them. All right, looking at cotton. Cotton, we've got a potential level bottom here, waiting to see which way this breaks, but it needs to get back over the weekly middle band, which has been testing for months, since early summer. Looking at lumber, this looks like a bear flag again. I'm thinking we've seen a rally up here. We've got a double top, which is broken down here with a target and in the 350 area, 350, 360, which is a retest of this low here, and I'm liking that target. This is a very nice looking bear flag setup, so I think this is resuming the move to the downside at the moment. No current positive divergence. I'm leaning towards this heading down, retesting this low at 517, and then probably continuing lower. All right, great. Let's have a look at crypto. All right, bear with me a moment. Okay, now we've seen some pretty bullish action last week on crypto. And we saw a break back over the daily middle band. Now, it's weekly middle band, a close back on above it. Now that needs to be confirmed with a close above it again on at the end of this week. But at the moment, it's looking pretty promising. On the daily chart, we're trying to break back over the daily middle band. I think we've closed about 3 days above it so far, and we need to get back over the 50 DMA, which is at 114.372. But at the moment, that's all in testing, and partially that depends on what we see happening on equities, I think. On RSI 14 sell signal has now reached the possible near miss target on Bitcoin. On Solana, we held the weekly middle band. And Ethereum, we held the weekly middle band at the close of the week too, so neither of those has broken yet. Bitcoin had broken below and has broken back above. If it can hold above there, then the obvious target is a retest of this high here at 126.3. If it fails again, then I've got a double top, which is already broken down with a target in the 88.3 to 90 area. Looking at the daily chart on Solana, we are well back over the daily middle band. We've closed, I think, we've got about 3 days above it now. Been back testing it. The next test for the upside, which would open up a retest of this high here at 253.58, would be a break up over the 50 DMA at 212.47. On Ethereum, again, we've seen some decent trade over the daily middle band for multiple days. I've got 50 DMA above here too. That's already been tested on the upside on the recent move. I've got that at 42.23, and again, if we see a break-in conversion of that to support, then a retest of this high is on the table. All right, so that's everything. We will see how everything goes, but I do want you to remember that chart at the beginning. By historical standards, this is above where we would have started a big bear market that would last a decade or so. That needs to be borne in mind here. So I'll be doing a post more about that and looking at the longer term patterns on equities. But that chart will be the first chart on that post. And that's because it's a very, very important chart. All right, great. In that case, that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll see you again on Sunday. And remember, the paywall is going up on Saturday morning. All right, take care.